It's recording. Stand by.
Okay.
Stand by. Oh, stand by. I'm letting people in. Hold on. Stand by. It's my alarm, and I'm letting people in. Here we go. 1, 2. Letting them in. Oh, Ruth Hroback is there. Okay. And everybody's in. I'm going to mute everybody. Hold on. Okay. All right.
Hello.
Okay, go for it.
Hey, everybody. Hi, fans. And hello to my co-host, Marcella.
How you doing, everyone?
Hello.
Oh,
Happy Monday.
I have to start my video. So let me start again and say, welcome, everybody. Thanks for checking in. We know that there are 10 million of these that you can attend per hour. So we're glad that you're here today. Welcome to my co-host, Marcella Gencarelli. A little bit about Marcella. Marcella, why don't you tell a little bit about you? We'll come back to me, and then we'll sort of set the pace for what we're doing today.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to say welcome and happy Motivational Monday, everyone.
Yes.
And thank you for joining Susan and myself. And that's to Susan's point. There's lots of other places you can be, and we're thrilled that you're here with us today. I'll tell you a little bit about me for those of you who don't know. I'm Vice President Manager Client Engagement for Lakeland Bank. And I'm also former chair for the Suburban Chamber and still on the board. So there's lots of fun stuff in terms of networking opportunities. And I also look for the client engagement piece all the time and love to meet new people, love to make connections. It's all about the social capital in our lives, which will hold so true and has always been true and just become more and more important as time goes on. One of our discussion points today are peaks and valleys and plateaus. So I'm going to introduce Susan to introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her, because she is coach extraordinaire. I will tell you, she's helped many, many, many folks, many people. And I look forward to our coaching sessions as well. Susan's amazing. Susan, take it away.
Thanks, Marcella. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. Yeah, just a little bit about me. My coach always said to me, you should always have someone introduce you, because when you introduce yourself, you sound a little bit, I don't know, full of yourself. I don't mean to, but I am an award-winning coach. I've been coaching for the last 10 years. I was in the search business for about 20, and love to help people raise the bar in communication, in their business development, reimagining their business, do a lot of transitional coaching. And I also do a lot of work with corporations and their teams. Today, we have sort of I think you folks saw it when you signed up, we have sort of a 5-point thing that we want to cover. We want to cover what's going on, not only what's going on, but how do we handle it? And how do we understand that in life, we can't live on top of the mountain forever. I've gotten the awards. I've had, valleys where no business was written. And I'm sure we've all experienced something like that. Or you've had a great job and then you've lost that job. So, but what does that mean? When you're in that valley, that's the time to take an assessment of what was it like when you were on top? How do you feel now? And I always use that term over and over again, the idea of pausing and reflecting. And that's sort of after you start to dig yourself out of the valley, you get to that plateau where you're not in the valley anymore. And I hope that we, even as a country, are starting to climb up a little bit to the plateau. We see some things opening up, have a little bit more positivity in our future. But in the meantime, we have to think not just for what happened. Will this happen again? Of course it will. I don't know when, but once we're out of this and things get better again, it's going to happen again. So what is your disaster plan? have you thought about this, not just for today and how you're going to dig out, but for the future? And a disaster plan in terms of perhaps your finances, your business. If you have people working for you, you have to understand that there may come a time that you may have to lay someone off. What will that look like? Will you be prepared for it? These are not negative things that I'm talking about. They're realistic things when we are planning for a disaster, which I know from speaking to a lot of people I'm working with right now, they kind of have a plan. So take this moment as we look to digging out of where we are and climbing up that mountain to knowing that we have to have that plan for the future. Marcella, you look like you want to say something about that, about disaster planning.
Well, disaster planning, we've all done it. It's not foreign to us. In terms of even, you disaster plan your car. You have maintenance done on your vehicle when it needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
You have flashlights in your house. I mean, you take care of what if the lights go out. So when it comes to your business, now I think we've all learned is that motivating a remote workforce. What does it look like in terms of marketing for your business, in times like this? Letting people know that you are here, letting people know that you are available to them, that you're still looking to have like those touch points with your customers, with your prospects, with people that you do business with, and people that you don't do business with, people that you just want to stay connected to. I mean, disaster plan does not only encompass the things and tools like computers and things that you need in terms of a tangible, it also has to do with the technology piece and the client-facing piece and the phone calls and an overall plan, a wellness plan, so to speak, for your business. Mm-hmm. Whether you're working for yourself and it's your business or it's within your career within a corporation, what does that look like?
Mm-hmm. And it's funny you say plan. I mean, we talked about the 5 Ps last week. So certainly having projects, having a plan, being prepared over and over and over. And we keep touching on the same points because it's like teaching a child to say, please, thank you, I'm sorry. They're just not going to do it the first time, and neither do we sometimes until we keep practicing and practicing and practicing. So, we talk about taking a risk. So right now, when you look at how businesses are going to change, all of our businesses, what is the risk that you are going to have to take? Is it a financial risk? I know for myself it is. I know I just made a big investment in what I'm going to be doing, pushing my business forward. It's not just going to come out of the sky. Someone's just not going to walk up to me and say, here's a plan so that you can generate more income. So what kind of risk do you have to take? Is it a financial risk? Maybe it's an emotional risk. But without taking a risk, and I will say this until I'm blue in the face, you will not get a return. It's just as simple as that. It's like people who have all their money in cash in the stock market. That's great. You know what? You're never going to lose any money, but you're never going to make any money. So without taking a risk in your business, in your personal life, where is that risk for you right now? And how are you going to handle that? Your comment on that, Marcella, because we talked about it. We always prepare for this. We always do it on Sunday, but we talked about it. What are your thoughts on that? What does that mean to you?
Well, for me, what that looks like in terms of taking a risk, for me, that looked like going virtual. I mean, that was a huge risk. Did not know what that would look like when the plan was made. I didn't know what the perception would be, how to source content to what would be relevant, and all of the above. And to take that investment of the time and the effort as to going out on a limb and say, you know what, I'm going to do this. Also, there's also a financial risk that goes in place with a lot of that as well. And in terms of what do you need, in terms of whatever it is in your business, whatever it is that you're looking to do, however it is that you need to propel yourself from the valley to the plateau as you climb the mountain, what does that financial risk look like? What does the time risk? Now we're saying risk doesn't always mean financial. It could mean in terms of your visibility, what your profile.
It's always, though, let me interrupt for a minute. It's always an investment, whether it's time, money, or emotion. Yes.
Correct. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Risk equals investment, but without taking the risk, you won't see the reward. You won't see the return on your investment on all 3 points.
I was listening to something the other day I was listening to someone talking, and especially when you have a not so much for what I do, although I spend, I invest a lot in the tools that raise the bar in coaching, right? But if you are someone who's looking for a job, I mean, are your tools in order? Did you write a good resume? Is it accomplishment driven? Okay. Does it have metrics? Does it have percentages? Because that's all we care about. We don't care what you've been responsible for. Okay. That's what people who, take care of the guard and things like that. Don't expect you're responsible for certain things. But if you're looking for a new job, people want to hire you.
Okay.
Can't hear me?
Missed everything you just said.
Oh boy. I don't know. Is it where I'm sitting?
Now you're fine. Now you're
Oh, I
clear.
guess I'm too far away, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe it's a little wind in the background. In any event, we have to be looking at what can we do as an individual or with our company when it comes to marketing or advertising. I bring that up because a lot of people who are listening remotely or whose picture we see right here, you're in a business where, and I'm going to someone like Ruth. Okay, so what do you do with advertising? I mean, maybe you're looking on Facebook. Maybe you are investing in Facebook advertising, but if you're not, you have to invest in a digital strategist, a digital strategy company like the gentleman who's helping us today, our producer, Gene Seller of SamsonMedia.net. So, hey, Gene, this didn't just magically appear, all right? We had to pay for this to happen. And it was an investment that we made. So when a lot of people just think, oh, these things happen and, oh, this one's successful or they get it done, or, wow, they know how to use Zoom. No, there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes. So what is it that you have to do for your business or for your career? What do you have to do to get yourself out there? Hey, if you're really good at creating your own content and curating your own content and making yourself visible, that's wonderful too. That's an investment of your time. But some way, it's not just going to miraculously happen. So and look at the bank. I'm sure they're investing a lot right now in staying in the game. This is an investment, staying in the game, keeping you visible, keeping them visible. But people may look at this and say, oh, well, it doesn't cost them anything. No, it doesn't cost them anything except Marcella's salary. So that they're dedicating someone for marketing and advertising, PR visibility. That's what we're doing. Can you hear me? I don't know. Let's try this. Is that better?
No.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, I just moved my seat. Okay, good. Here I am. I'm so sorry. So basically what I was saying is that people might think this is nice that Lakeland does this. It doesn't really cost them anything. It's not an investment, but it is. They're investing your salary. They're paying you to make sure that Lakeland stays visible, that the lunches and learns that you do keep the bank in the game. So even though this is our private little thing that we've put together, I'm talking about, when I ask you, what does the bank do to stay visible during these times? They must be having a plan for something. They must be having a marketing plan for something.
Well, no, of course they do. They keep in touch with their customers on a daily basis with everything that's coming up new in terms of services that are online services, anything that's coming out in terms of products and services that can be accessible if you don't have to go into a branch. Also letting them know what they put together in terms of a plan for those that do have to go to a branch and go into the office and what that looks like now. Because each and every office now is ready and been outfitted in order to accept clients inside. And not just drive-ups be open. I mean, so yes, and they keep that constant line of communication to everyone through email distribution and also through phone calls of client contact. So they get that personal customer contact with whoever their banking representative is. So yes, they have a plan. Yes, they've acted out on their plan. So in terms of us and in terms of the visibility of the lunch and learns, they've kept that going for either breakfast and learn, lunch and learn, or evening event to keep the client, the business customer to which I'm focused on, and have those client engagement activities in place. So I've never missed a beat with that. From the time that we stopped doing the in-person to the time that the virtual came out was a matter of like 5 days.
Mhm. Folks, I'm really sorry that I'm having these technical difficulties. You can't
This
hear
is
me.
perfect. You're good now.
I better just sit right here. Okay.
Yes, don't move.
Okay.
Don't move.
So topic number 3 is like, so we talked about this, Marcella. So finances are a big thing, whether personal or whether it's your business or anything. So, you know, my first tip on that is to live below. Oh, there's Terri and Mark, and they're investment
Financial people. Yeah.
financial advisors. So to live below your means and to continue to do that even after this, because I think a lot of us, you know, a lot of people, luckily they're not paying for gas because they're not going anywhere. They're not going out to dinner. They're not really spending a lot of money on dry cleaning. So there are a lot of costs that we just are saving right now. But as you go forward, really think about it. Think about, where does your money go? Put together a budget. And if you don't know how to do that, let your accountant or someone who knows something about finances help you with that. Maybe
Oh,
Terri
definitely.
and Mark Trapp. Let's give a shout out to them. So that's number 1. So that's my tip. What's your tip?
My tip would be pretty much almost the same thing. And if you're not used to putting a budget together, a great way to start would be make a list of your expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Make 2 lists, actually. I would go side by side. The things that you need to pay for and the things that you no longer pay for.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see how that list will grow as to be part of maybe possibly a savings plan for you. Because I know in some things we're maybe spending a little bit more if you're having like groceries delivered. But I thought about that the other day as for our discussion. But then I'm not taking family out for dinner every Friday night for pizza. I mean, there's just like certain things that, like I said, if you make 2 lists, you'll see what your financial picture really truly looks like if you're not familiar with putting together a budget. For everybody, it works a little bit different. Some people like to work their way up the chain. Some people like to work their way, say, this is what I have and this is how I'm spending it. Or they like to say, well, these are my expenses, or this is where they're not used to paying themselves first. But you also have to look at that. This gets you to that place of being able to pay yourself first.
I think back in the day, they called it zero budget accounting. So you started with nothing and then you built your budget. Like, what are the absolute essentials that you need? So,
Right.
you know, but you're right. There's 2 ways of looking at it. But I think that, and then have those 6 months, know that you have that nest egg, that if something happens, you're not going to go haywire. I just, again, there's, look at your credit, look at your credit score. Your credit score is important because the types of rates that you receive from banks and credit cards and car buying and leasing or whatever you're doing has to do with your credit score. So the lower your score, the higher your rate is going to be. So try and how do we do that? Not only do we pay our bills on time, which is obviously important, but we also keep it down. They like you to have a little debt. I mean, they like you to have a little bit of debt house line. As long as you pay on time, you show them. Can you hear me now?
This, everything you said, and I know it was good because it was about your credit score.
Your credit score.
Yes.
That the lower your score, the higher the rate will be that they charge you.
Yes.
And while it's important to have debt to show them that you can pay it off, we're not talking about, you know, every time you go out to dinner, you put your dinner on a credit card, or you go shopping nilly-willy, or a lot of things that we do, because in one sense right now, it's going to be a very big burden on our economy, is that people they're in debt to a point that they've never been in before for obvious reasons. We have very high unemployment, but even before that. So keep your debt down. Keep it down. Try to have very little. If your house is your major debt, that's fine, because we know you're going to get rich. So these are the kinds of things that, again, planning for the future, it's basically how to make yourself and your career and your company airtight. And then the final thing I think we wanted to talk about was, if you do have a job or your company is solvent, what are you going to do to make yourself indispensable? I'm going to let you answer that one. I've done a lot of talking. What?
Right. That was really the last point, and it's real important. And maybe we, can ask for some feedback in the chat box on that.
Yeah, we are gonna open up our mics after we finish with all this. Definitely. Right. Yeah, go ahead.
Because this is a real interesting point that'll look different to a lot of people. Is how do you make yourself indispensable to your company, to your customers, within your career? What does that look like? Because I know a lot of times when you become like a resource, because I know that this happened to me throughout my career in banking, was being a resource to my customers and all the time. They'd ask, like, one of the things that was always very interesting, I'd be told, put together a list of COIs. And if you become your client's COI and the point person within,
could you please, let's just define that. I'm sure everybody knows what it is, but could you just define?
Center of influence. If you become the go-to person for your customers and for your prospects, in other words, what does that look like? If someone calls you for something other than what you do, think about that for a minute. During a conversation I've had with a very attorney client that I've had for many years, he would always align himself with everybody from the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. So if someone's calling you for something other than what your field is, you've just made COI because you're their go-to. Think about that for a moment, how special that is and how important that is.
And also from a career standpoint, you want to be the person who is able to influence within an organization, to make things happen so that people look to you. And also as a business owner, I mean, I can't tell you during this time, especially, how many emails I've gotten from people. Do you know this person? Do you know that person? How many introductions I made? Not for me, for them.
Yeah.
So being influential is key to the success of any business and the success of your career. So again, we always like to keep it 30 minutes or maybe sometimes a little bit more, but I'm going to bring this book up again, folks, this Peaks and Valleys by Spencer Johnson. And I'm going to say it over and over again. So you invest $7.99 on Amazon for it. I actually lost the one I had This is the guy who wrote Who Moved
My Cheese.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that was big 20 years ago when he wrote that, because that was when companies were downsizing and right-sizing and, going from, corporate obesity to where they had downsized beyond the fat and the muscle into the bones of the company, where they were just barely making it to re-engineer themselves. Now this is not a book that was written in this year. This is a book that was written around, I think, 2009. Again, I wonder what he'll come up with now after this pandemic. But he wrote depression. And so he really talks about, and I think it's a great book. First of all, it's very motivational because, we all have our down days, the days that we think we're never going to make it again. So I have said this, I think, in this trifecta. Sometimes I'll say to a client when they're down, I'll say, look, think about some of the great times in your life. It's not that I really want you looking backward. I just want you to remember that you were in a valley once before. What did you do to figure it out? And then we talk about that and they start doing that again and things change differently. Things change. And while we're trying to get to that mountaintop again, which, by the way, I just said to a client the other day who's doing exceedingly well, I said, oh, by the way, enjoy it, okay? Because you're not going to be up here forever. And I didn't say it to be mean. I said it because, they're a little arrogant right now because of the type of business that they're in, and it's a necessity. Now, there are businesses that are required right now and they're doing exceedingly well. I said to him, don't think you're going to be here forever. And talking about the kinds of things that we talked about today, having that disaster plan, and continuing to invest in your marketing, whatever it is you do, keep yourself and make yourself accessible to your clients and to the people around you. So great book. But while we're in this valley, we're going to start coming out and we're going to get to a plateau. And we might not know exactly how we're going to get to that next step, but we're not going to go from peak from valley to mountain. That's not going to happen. You might reach a plateau, but take a breath, pause, reflect, and then figure out how you're going to take your next step.
Yeah,
So
and
that's
keep
my
in
thing.
mind too that doesn't mean that you're failing. If you
No.
go to the plateau, that's progress, and progress just may look a little bit different and a little slower than maybe what some of the strategies that we've employed before, to quite possibly how they will affect, the movement toward getting back to the peak.
And plateaus actually, as we said, the old pause and reflect, plateaus are necessary. I'm working with someone now who recently lost his job. And he thought, that's it. Like tomorrow I got to find a job. Well, okay. But first, like, did you build the foundation? So when you actually go out there, you actually look good on LinkedIn. You look good. Your resume looks like something that someone wants to hire, or are you just so desperate? Because sometimes you just need that time. You have to reflect. If you don't reflect, how are you going to make a plan? Especially this is someone who's been employed for the same company for 10 years. So it's a whole new view. And the same thing with someone's business. Whatever your business looked like 2 months ago, it's going to look different for all of us. And we really have to start thinking about how we're going to evolve and how we're going to start, climbing up to that mountain. So, all right, well, I want to, let's open it up, Marcella, to maybe some thoughts, questions,
comments or suggestions and
yeah.
things. Yeah. Jean, do you have what's it in the chat box?
Anything
Is Jean
for us?
gonna do that? Okay.
Yeah.
Usually we have so many people speaking. Any questions that anyone has? Any thoughts? What about, I'm going to call on Terri and Mark because they've been with us since the inception. How is your business going to look different, you two?
Well, I don't think too much difference because we're doing so much on Zoom right now. Our company was positioned to do this almost a couple years ago, really, to do a lot of things virtually.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's still the interpersonal contact. When people are dealing with money, it's very personable. And doing it on, a screen like this is not quite the same as being kneecap to kneecap at their kitchen table.
Right.
Especially with lunch and learns and things like that. It's a little bit a different dynamic. And that part of it coming out of this, we're going to have to navigate that. But as far as making sure that people understand the 7 lessons, and that's one of the things we loved about this series was it touched on a lot of those lessons learned, changes to be made. And I love the way that you were describing that. I love the Peaks and Valley book. Also, we did it as a partnership book a couple of years ago.
Yeah, at least 3.
Yeah, about 3 years ago. So that was perfect. But coming out of this, I think the biggest pain point that we're really going to address a little bit more is making sure people are aware of what they actually have and not just going with emotions. When we say an emergency account, the baseline is 3 to 6 months. We've actually had a number of clients that have already reached a year off, mostly because they were afraid of a caregiving situation with their parents or something happening to their kids. Now they're realizing that they're not in such a bad situation because they listened. And the other aspect is the legal aspect, because we do legal paperwork and prepare people for businesses and things like that. So that's a big thing that people are realizing. The other is insurability. People never took that for granted before. They were like, "Oh, I'm okay." Now it's going to be like doing more financial literacy to make sure that people understand what they have, what they really need, and those little baby steps that they need to take when we're not in crisis mode.
What I love about your comment to us, Terri, is here you're both financial people. So everything is numbers and black and white. It is when it comes to numbers, there's no lying, okay?
Right.
And this is what Marcella and I were trying to do on this trifecta is there are a lot of soft skills and ideas that come from our experiences, but that are necessary beyond the revenues, the sales and all that. You could be the greatest salesperson in the world, but if you don't know what's really going on in the world, or you don't know how to be a COI, or some of these things that we've touched on over these last 6 episodes. So I appreciate that coming from people who are in more of a, let's say I don't want to say technical, but more of a hard skill kind of business. You realize the importance of the soft skills that go behind it.
Oh, very much so. And being the center as well. One of the points that you were just making about being the go-to people, we've actually gotten phone calls while we're hiking from clients that literally say, I know this is not your expertise, but I trust you and you've got a trusted circle. We had a client whose septic backed up. And we are hiking, and I'm on the phone calming the client down, and my husband's on the phone calling a couple choices to find out who could get out to them soon. And we got somebody out there like the next day. And they were like, we knew we could trust you because you take good care of us, and you know trusted people.
Right.
So that's what we've built over the last 30 years. And that's so much more important than I can do an IRA for you.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Andy, I'm glad you liked the book. We're going to be Andy is in a mastermind with me, and we're going to be talking about peaks and valleys. And yeah, it makes you really turn inward and think a little bit more about life, you know?
Absolutely.
The whole picture.
Absolutely.
So thanks for that comment. Any other thoughts, Marcella? Any other thoughts? We don't want to keep you, but and by the way, to Mike Boslett, thanks for joining us 2 weeks in a row. What brought you to us? Mike, can you hear me? I said thanks for you're new to us. Thanks for what made you join us. How'd you get here? Can you hear me?
I don't think you can hear.
He's got his mute on, I think. Does he?
Well, find out.
There we go. There we go.
He's not muted.
Okay, I don't know. Mike, did you hear me? Not me now. Okay, well, thank you.
Mic issues. He has mic issues.
Mike has mic issues.
Mike has mic issues.
Mike has
Very
mic
funny.
issues.
Oh, Mike has mic issues.
Oh, we needed a little levity. This is good. That was
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Susan, as always, I have to say your candor, I was taught a very long time ago, I didn't come from a wealthy family at all. We worked very hard, and I'm grateful for that. And we were taught at an early age, if you have $1, you spend maybe 50 cents of it, and you save the other. And this is just life itself. If you don't do that, you're going to end up in a truckload of problems with what many people are experiencing. Now, I'm upset that I don't have work, but I'm not in a pure panic because my parents taught me well. 6 months is what I can do. Now, if I can do more than that, as far as saving or making sure I have enough in the kitty, is a good thing. But most people are in debt up to kazoo. They have no idea what to do, and their life becomes a.
And we were like, hello, we can help with that.
Yeah. So I mean, these meetings have been fantastic. They're things that we should hear. People are not quite clear on it because they're too busy spending money all the time and not thinking about it. So I get it. We do want to splurge once in a while and enjoy ourselves. We should, but not to the cost of putting ourselves out of, putting ourselves in debt. I'll never do that for me. I hope not anyway. But I did read that book, Who Moved the Cheese. So I do want to get this book because it's very good writer, very candid.
Yeah, and it's just a little updated.
Yes.
I'm going to go, and then you can close us up. All right. Anybody else? And you can, of course, raise your hand after I finish. But I said to Marcella, I haven't made one offer to these folks. And so if there's anyone on this Zoom who needs help generating business, figuring out how to get a list together so that they can stay in touch and become a COI to their clients, anybody who needs help in their career or anything else, I'm making an offer today, which I did actually at a lunch and learn, and we were very successful with that, Marcella. Here's an airplane over my head. So I want to say that I'm going to offer, and this includes as many sessions, up to 12 sessions in 3 months. I would love to work with anybody here. I normally would charge $29.97 for 3 months, and I'm going to cut that in half. So whether you're working on your career, whether you need another set of eyes on your financial plan, not the plan that you guys do, the business, or you need to learn how to write a speech, or whatever it may be that you need help with, I'm here. You know where to get me. I'll do a free consultation. It's up to you if you bite, but I'd like to do that. And I also want to say that we've had a lot of fun doing this. We are going to go on hiatus because we have Memorial Day weekend coming up.
Mhm.
We don't know yet, right, Marcella? We might do it. We might do it the first week in June. We have to have something great to talk about. So we're going to start doing some more homework, and you're on our list. So if something comes up, you'll hear from us again. You'll definitely hear from us. We just don't know when in June or even the beginning of July. So, Marcella. I'll let
Yep,
you
no, well, I want to say, like everybody, to please still keep in touch by all means, and we will be back at some point over the summer. But again, to Susan's point, it will be with when things are a little bit maybe possibly changed, that we can bring you something of tremendous value, as we're very, very happy that we have, based on comments, brought value over these past 6 episodes. So we are looking forward to coming back again, and reach out to Susan, reach out to myself in terms of the client engagement piece, and also in terms of, you know, Lakeland Bank. Any questions that I can answer for you offline, please feel free to email me. Please feel free to reach out. And I want to thank everyone.
And before we go, I want to say again, thank you to Gene Sower, SamsonMedia.net. He's our producer. He does all of my social media strategy, and he's just fantastic. And I know that he also is happy to do a consultation for anybody who thinks they might be able to use his services. So thank you so much for coming, everybody. At least we can get outside. Maybe we can social distance and have a cheeseburger with our family. So I'm wishing you all a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. And this is not the last time you will see us. So we'll see you soon.
We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank
day.
Thank you.
Good to see
Take care.
everybody.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.